Hello and welcome to the GST classroom. That's right, the countdown has begun to what is being described as the most ambitious tax reform that a government has undertaken, at least in the last quarter of a century. But as with every major move, there is a lot of apprehension. There are concerns of disruption in the system. What really are those concerns? This is your opportunity to get all your questions answered directly from people who know a thing or two about GST. Please welcome Jayant Sinha, Minister in the government of Narendra Modi, and Sanjiv Srivastava, GST Commissioner, is with us. So we've got experts to answer all your questions. Also with me is my colleague Devina Gupta as well as Rajeev Dubey of Business Today. Let's get straight to the questions to the Minister. We'll have questions from across the country and you can also tweet us your question. But Mr. Minister, before we come to specific questions, there's already the political rumblings over GST. The opposition almost across the board has said it will boycott the midnight session convened by the Prime Minister tomorrow. Does that cast a shadow already on GST? Despite the consensus, there is still a divide.
It doesn't cast a shadow on GST, Rajdeep, but it does cast a shadow on the politics of our country. GST is well beyond any party. It is well beyond the politics of the day. It truly is an extraordinary national moment, a very profound moment in our economic history. And the reason why the midnight session made so much sense was just like we achieved political freedom from the colonial oppressors, we have now achieved economic freedom from a patchwork of tax laws that existed previously, and we are now taking 17 different taxes, we're combining them together so that we genuinely have economic integration to go with the political integration that we have in this country. It's a profoundly important moment, a tryst with destiny for our country, and therefore the midnight session, therefore the special session of Parliament made so much sense.
You know, some would say that the economic freedom began in 1991 and you don't need a tryst with destiny, but you know, that may be quibbling. Are you worried though that Mamata Banerjee, for example, who has said, and I quote her, that this is unimplementable at the moment, that the government is engaging in event management without focusing on how is GST actually going to be implemented. The government is in an unnecessary, disastrous hurry. It's an epic blunder. Now, here is one important minister of the opposition party saying she's worried about the way it's going to be implemented. Will that have any impact?
It's very distressing and unfortunate that we are getting these kinds of comments from a very respected senior political leader. The facts on the ground are that everybody is ready for GST, the systems are ready, the rules and regulations associated with GST are largely ready.
The systems are ready? The back room is fully ready?
The systems are absolutely ready, and much more importantly, we also have a dynamic evolving process that will enable us to deal with both the system glitches or any rules or policies that need to be further modified and so on. We have a very responsive system that will take care of any problems that will come up. And let's be clear. Let's be absolutely clear. What we are attempting to do here on indirect taxes that represent something like 50% of all the taxes that are collected in this country is unprecedented in human history. Never has tax reform of this scale been implemented. We have about 1 crore indirect taxpayers in this country in terms of people that have to file indirect tax returns. All of them are going to be brought into the system, and they will have to digitize their processes and be able to ensure that everything they do is computerized and digitized. This is extraordinary in terms of what we're doing for our economy, and we have got all of that under control. We are ready and we are looking forward to
it. Before I come to Rajeev and Devina with their question, I'm sure they've got several. A Facebook question. Tarun Bhardwaj asks you, there is so much ambiguity regarding how it will work and what are the processes and paperwork involved. Some messages on social media say small businesses have to submit returns thrice a month. Is it true or not?
First of all, let me clarify that anybody less than 20 lakhs in turnover is not within the scope of GST. They don't have to worry. So whether it's a beauty parlor in a village or a small dukan or a pan wala around the corner, most of those people are outside the scope of GST because 20 lakhs or below, they don't come within the GST framework. Between 20 to 75 lakhs, you can take advantage of the composition scheme. If you can fall in the 1% category, the 2% category, or the 5% category, you just file once a quarter return, pay your taxes along 1 to 5% categories, and you're done. Now, if you're more than 75 lakhs in turnover, most people in that category are already maintaining all of their accounts on computers and so on. They need to file for GST. It is correct in every state once a month, but as long as they're doing it on computers, this is a very simple matter to do because it's a situation where most returns are auto-populated, and it really is a snap of the fingers that will enable you to file the return. So this business of compliance burden that people are raising as a bogeyman is completely wrong, because the reality is today you're filing 17 different taxes and you're doing compliance on 17 different taxes. Now you're going to digitally comply with just one tax with a snap of your fingers. This is going to really ease the compliance.
You're making it very easy, but go ahead.
You're
making it sound very easy.
It is very easy, Rajeev.
Okay.
One of the concerns about the compliance especially is about those people who are under 1.5 crore, and then this 90% under under state and 10% under center. Now, how would the person know? Is it by lottery, or is it by, how are you going to decide? It is also possible that the same company may be under state in one jurisdiction and under center in another jurisdiction. So, the kind of complications that they are expecting emerging out of this, how does one deal with this?
Well, the field forces are fully ready for that. I'll let the Commissioner give you exactly how it's going to work.
It is a one person to whom you will be reporting. Whether it is a central officer or a state officer, you take for granted that it is a one GST office.
But
one
that
GST
will be decided
office.
by whom, and when will he know?
Yeah, he will be knowing immediately, because it is being worked out. It will be done completely on a random basis.
It's a lottery. It's a lottery.
It is a random basis selection. Now, only for the purpose of compliance, you are, whether it is a central officer or a state officer, he is doing entire work for you. Whether you are reporting to state officer, it is not that you are going only for state taxes. It is a central taxes plus state taxes which will be dealt by that officer. Secondly, your compliance, everything is now electronically done.
Yeah.
You are not visiting the offices for going for a daily, day-to-day interaction. Everything will be done digitally on an electronic media. Even if certain permission is required, certain thing is to be done, department will interact only on a digital.
So will he know in his login that he's what jurisdiction he is under?
He will know.
He'll know.
He will know.
And my issue is that what if the trader is not computer literate, because still at least 60% of traders do not have a pakka bill system. They still work on a kacha bill system. There have been also protests from different parts of Delhi, Mumbai, Asansol. They're saying that we don't have the knowledge of the software that's being launched by GST.
It's very important that everybody move to a pakka system. Only when you have a pakka system, and I'm talking about those people that have turnover of 75 lakhs or more, that's a very substantial turnover to have. Those people have to move to a pakka system. They're part of a supply chain. They have to keep records. They have to have invoices that are transmitted along the way. And if we have to build a modern 21st century economy, that has to be within the tax system, that has to have clarity on what are the flows of goods and services that are happening along the supply chain. It's essential that it be done so.
But you're asking them to do it overnight. Abu Sufyan is saying on Facebook, I'm in the scrap business where people are less educated. Most of the businesses are not through paper. It's called kacha. In such a business, 18% GST. I don't know how we will do it.
Rajdeep, it's very clear that they will have to move to a pakka system. They will have to computerize. They will have to digitize. Those are the demands of a modern economy. You should also know that the CA community, the accounting community has spent years preparing for this. They are fully ready. There are GST Subidha providers. There are all kinds of people trained, equipped and able, and more than happy to enable people to make the transition from the kacha system to the pakka system. Remember that when you're in the kacha system, you are not paying your fair taxes, which means that all of us are paying for them. If they are using a road, or if they are using a bridge, or their children are going to a government school, they're not paying for it if they're in the kacha system.
But Mr. Minister, I just want to point out one more thing, that right now the e-way bill is suspended. It's still not, the nitty-gritties are not worked out. That means the entire concept of GST will be at stake, because you won't have a seamless movement of goods unless that e-way bill system comes into place.
There are going to be transition issues This is one of them. We have also provided people 2 months so that they can get used to the system, get used to the computerization, and then they will have to start filing returns from September onwards. During this period of July and August and September, we recognize that people will go through teething trouble. We recognize that the e-way bill has to be implemented, and so we are prepared to work, and all reasonable requests in this regard will be considered.
Okay, let me go to Mumbai, which is where we are getting the first questions from. Mayuresh is there. Mayuresh, what are the questions for the Minister and the Commissioner?
Certainly, Rajeev, but before that, just wanted to show you that these people from the textile trader community, and they are on a strike. You can see the banner behind. I have Mr. Chandrakishore Poddar with us. Let's go across to him. He will be asking a direct question to Minister. Sir, आप सीधे सवाल पूछिए मिनिस्टर से.
एक तो हमारे कपड़े में पहले कोई टैक्स नहीं था, और मई तक हमें ये बताया गया था जिस चीज में टैक्स नहीं है उसमें नया टैक्स नहीं लगेगा. फिर भी अचानक हम लोग को 6 तारीख को तो पता चला कि जीएसटी कपड़े पे आ गई है. अब जीएसटी की प्रिपरेशन का समय देना चाहिए था, और हम लोग को ना तो समझ है, और हमारे तो अनस्किल्ड लोग तो सब ये काम चला रहे अपने हुनर के कारण. तो वो अब कैसे इसको कोप अप कर पाएंगे, इसको सरकार को इसके बारे में सोचना चाहिए था. और अभी भी समय नहीं बीता है. इनको समय देना चाहिए, और समय दे के ट्रेंड करिए पहले लोगों को, देशवासी को, ताकि और टैक्स का स्ट्रक्चर ऐसा बनाइए कि आदमी शौक से टैक्स दे और खुश होकर टैक्स दे. ऐसा नहीं लगे कि उसको कोई सजा मिल रही है.
Let the minister answer that. I think this is a familiar issue that people are saying, give us more time to prepare for it. You're asking them to change their complete ecosystem the way they have been working for 40-50 years overnight.
नहीं, देखिए, जो भी कोई पक्के सिस्टम से अपने टैक्स को और अपने हिसाब को दे रहा था, उसको कोई तकलीफ नहीं होगी आगे के समय कंप्यूटर के द्वारा अपने जीएसटी के इनवॉइसेस, अपने डिजिटल इनवॉइसेस तैयार करने में. जो भी पक्का काम कर रहा था वो बस, चाहे वो टैली का उपयोग कर रहे हो, या एसएपी का उपयोग कर रहे हो, या माइक्रोसॉफ्ट डायनामिक्स का उपयोग कर रहे हो, इन सब सॉफ्टवेयर सिस्टम्स में जीएसटी का पैच आ गया है. जीएसटी पूरी तरीके से लागू है. मैं जो अपने व्यापारी, जो हमारे साथी हैं,
टेक्सटाइल इंडस्ट्री
में उनको समझाना चाहता हूं कि ये गलतफहमी है. ये गलतफहमी है कि आप पे टैक्स पहले लागू नहीं था. आप पे टैक्स लागू था, लेकिन जो अंत में जो ग्राहक था, जो आपका एंड कस्टमर था, उसको नहीं पता चल रहा था कि वो टैक्स लागू है, क्योंकि वो हिडन टैक्स था. फैक्ट्री में तो एक्साइज आप दे रहे थे, आप ऑक्ट्रॉय ड्यूटी तो आप दे रहे थे, इस कारण टैक्स आप दे रहे थे. अब हम लोग पारदर्शी तरीके से ट्रांसपेरेंटली ग्राहक को बता रहे हैं, कस्टमर को बता रहे हैं कि टैक्स लागू हो रहा है. जो पहले टैक्स लागू था वो टैक्स अब नहीं लागू होगा, वो टैक्स नहीं लगाएंगे. एंड में जो आपको टैक्स देना था वो हम आपको पारदर्शी तरीके से दिखा रहे हैं, और जो पहले टैक्स देने थे उसका आपको क्रेडिट मिल जाएगा. तो ऐसा नहीं है कि कीमतें बढ़ने वाली, कीमतें नहीं बढ़ने वाली. जो टैक्स पहले था वो टैक्स आज के समय भी है. लेकिन ये सही है कि अगर आप सब काम कच्चा कर रहे थे, आपने कंप्यूटराइजेशन नहीं किया है, तो आपको वो ज़रूर करना पड़ेगा. और ये हमारे अर्थव्यवस्था के लिए, हमारे समाज के लिए बहुत ही लाभदायक है और करना चाहिए. मैं एक और बात जोड़ना चाहता हूँ. ये बहुत ज़रूरी है समझना कि अभी भी ट्रांजिशन टाइम है. बहुत सारे हमारे लोग हैं, जैसे मैंने कहा, सीए हों या एमकॉम बीकॉम वाले लोग हैं, जो तैयार हैं आपको मदद देने के लिए, आपको सहयोग देने के लिए, जिसमें कि आप कंप्यूटराइजेशन और डिजिटाइजेशन आप कर पाएँ. लेकिन अभी भी 2 महीने हैं, अभी भी 2 महीने हैं. आप अगर नया रजिस्ट्रेशन कर रहे हैं तो आप नया रजिस्ट्रेशन करिए. जुलाई अगस्त में आप पूरा अपना जो है सिस्टम तैयार करिए, और सितंबर से फिर आप जो नया सिस्टम है उसके तरीके से आप अपना टैक्स भरिए. ये सब हमने आपको साधन दिए हुए हैं, और इसका हम लोगों को एक सकारात्मक, we must think about this in a positive way as opposed to continuously being worrying about it, because this is what we need to do to take the economy forward to be globally competitive.
So you're not worried about the disruption, the fact that there are groups, traders who are going on strike. You don't think there will be a period of disruption in this transition phase?
As the Honorable Finance Minister has said, as the Honorable Prime Minister has said, as all senior officials have said, we are extremely concerned about implementation. We are extremely concerned about transition, which is why we are engaging so widely in communicating with everyone, particularly the 1 crore potential taxpayers for GST, and we're trying to dispel all of their doubts. But we have to move forward. We recognize that this is the best way to move forward for the economy, and so our appeal to our colleagues in the trade, in the commerce area, is that please work with us. We all need to do this to move forward.
Mr. Sinha, what is the government's realistic assessment of how long the disruption of GST will last? And two, have you tried to assess the impact it will have on the informal economy, what is called the parallel economy? Because however much the big business likes or dislikes it, it has an impact on the employment and the employment generation and the,
Rajiv, we've studied the experience of other countries that have gone through GST. Now you have to recognize, with 29 states and 7 union territories and a continental sized economy like we have in India, nobody has ever implemented a tax reform of this scale and scope anywhere else in the world. This is unprecedented in human history, that we are not only implementing it across all these different states and union territories, we are also simultaneously digitizing the whole indirect tax structure. So this is extraordinary. So even though we've studied the history of other states, it's very hard to say that that's what's going to happen to India. We are expecting a few months of disruption and transient settling down while people get used to the system. But remember, we are migrating to a far simpler system than we have right now. So I think even though the meal may look like it is tough to cook, at the end of the day, everybody will be happy that the meal has been cooked. It will be a tasty meal.
The parallel economy, employment.
Now, coming to your second question about the parallel economy. We have to transition people from the informal economy to the formal economy. Our tax to GDP, the size of the parallel economy, the black money corruption that goes along with that is all a price that we are paying for a very large informal sector. And it's time, and that's what we have tried to do with demonetization and we're doing with GST, it's time to bring people out of the shadows. It's time to bring people out of the shadows and bring them into the formal economy so that we can all be participants and contributors in nation building.
I'll take a break, but before that, Mayuresh, मैं जानना चाहता हूँ, are the textile traders in Mumbai satisfied कि मंत्री जी कह रहे हैं कि 1-2 महीने में सब कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा, कि ये एक ट्रांजिशन पीरियड है, क्या वो अभी भी स्ट्राइक पर जाएंगे? कम जुलाई 1 will they be on strike?
पोदार जी, मंत्री जी कह रहे हैं कि 1-2 महीने का ट्रांजिशन पीरियड है, उसके बाद सब ठीक हो जाएगा. आपको लगता है ये, या फिर इसके बाद भी आप स्ट्राइक पे जाओगे?
भाई ऐसा है कि जब तक हम समझे नहीं तब तक हम कोई कमेंट नहीं कर सकते. और तो व्यापारी अब तो व्यापार करीब करीब बंद सा ही हो गया, क्योंकि नया व्यापार करने के लिए पहले कानून समझे, नहीं तो फिर कानून तोड़ना टूटेगा, तो उसके लिए पेनलाइज व्यापारी होगा, व्यापारी है उद्योग. और हमारे यहाँ तो सब अनस्किल्ड लोग काम करते हैं.
अभी भी समय मांग रहे हैं.
हाँ, कम से कम 3-6 महीना समय देना चाहिए. और पहले सरकार जो आज काम कर रही है वो 6 महीने पहले से इनको ट्रेंड करना चाहिए सबको.
Okay, let me leave it there. I think what they are saying is that you should have given them more time. You're saying that you think that in a space of 1 or 2 months things will be fine. We'll leave it there because we want to get in more questions. But those concerns are real concerns. They're not just in Mumbai, but they're in different parts. And we'll travel across the country and take your questions. Welcome back to this GST classroom where as the build-up to the goods and services tax begins, we're trying to get some answers to your questions from the Minister Jayant Sinha and from the GST Commissioner, Mr. Srivastava. Let's go to Kolkata, where we have our next set of questions coming from. Go ahead, Indranil. What is the question that the people there have for the Minister?
Well, Rajdeep, once we talk about Kolkata, we cannot leave sweets behind. So we are coming to you live from one of the very famous sweet shops in South Kolkata. I have the owner of this sweet shop, and he seems to be in dilemma as to why there is no GST on lassi, despite there is GST on mishti doi, from where lassi is made. So what is your question to the Minister?
Yeah, lassi and chach is a staple food of North India and western part of India, whereas mishti doi is and rasgulla and sandesh is staple food of ours. Bengalis cannot do without rasgulla, mishti doi. I have known people that they have only mishti doi and rice for the lunch or for the dinner. And so how come there is no GST on lassi and we have to pay GST on mishti doi or rasgulla?
So that's a direct question to Mr. Sinha as to why there is this difference as far as various slabs within the same food items are concerned.
Mr. Sinha?
Well, I'm a great fan of Mishti Doi myself, and I'm sorry I can't be there in person and enjoy your Mishti Doi. Of course, the principle that we've tried to follow when it came to fitment, that is applying rates, was to stay with what the rates are currently. And that perhaps may be the reason why you're seeing the difference between lassi and the Mishti Doi in your particular case. But I will ask our Commissioner, Shri Sanjiv Srivastava ji, to give us the exact details on how these rates were arrived at.
Yes.
The rates were arrived at taking into account the existing rates of VAT and the central taxes. Now, once those were taken into account, a final rate was arrived at. If it was subjected to some tax within the West Bengal, it was taken into account, or on any product, those two were added together to arrive at the final rate, and it was fit into the 5 slabs which were there.
Because you had this issue yesterday with leather, leather shoes, right?
Shoes are, I think, going to be more expensive by about 6-7% higher than.
And I've just got another question which someone has said, essential medicines. They're worried that in many places stockists are not stocking their old medicine, new stocks have not come in, and there is a shortage, this person is saying, in Mumbai of essential medicine. Will these problems exist? Do you see these problems there as part of the teething troubles?
I think there will be some of these teething troubles, but hopefully they will get resolved relatively quickly. My understanding right now is that people are clearing stocks because on the older stock, they're not sure exactly what the tax incidence is, whether they've got appropriate tax credit, whether their records are fully there or not. And so they're trying to clear the old stock within the old tax framework so that when they come into the GST system, it is on the basis of stocks on which they know exactly where the tax has been applied and the extent to which the tax has been applied. People are also transitioning computer systems, so that is another reason why they're trying to clear out the stocks. But these are transient effects, these are very short-term effects.
You don't see a shortage of such commodities
Not
over a long period of time that might lead to some inflationary pressures?
Not at all, Rajdeep. There may be a few price bumps here and there, a few hiccups along the way, but by and large all of these matters we expect will settle down relatively quickly because people will find the new system so much more convenient and so much better in terms of compliance.
We've heard about these war rooms, that you've created, but how trained are these 60-70,000 officers to handle these war rooms? How much, are they trained at all in the GST system?
They are trained because they are receiving all the information and putting it up to the experts who are handling it, and on the basis of the information received, these war rooms are nothing but getting a feedback from the trade, from the people as to what they feel about GST or what are their problems. Those problems are recorded.
So will you be open to review? Will you be open to review if there are problems? Or because the worry about this government, if I may say so, is that you are not open to review.
No,
once you've gone it, if there are traders who are saying give us more time, if there is someone else who's got a particular problem, will you all be open to review?
Absolutely, we will be open to review. We are making adjustments on a dynamic real-time basis. As I said, I was just in the aviation meeting right now where we were looking at a whole host of issues that have sprung up, and we're dealing with them in real time, trying to resolve them as quickly as possible. And of course, we have to keep fine-tuning and improving as we go along. We did that with demonetization, where we made a lot of changes. In fact, we made so many changes, you all were complaining that we're making too many changes.
Yes.
So, I think you should stand appropriately corrected. No, we are absolutely operating in real time. We're taking feedback from all necessary stakeholders, and to the extent that we can resolve ambiguities, uncertainties and discrepancies, we will certainly do so. However, you should also recognize that there are issues of principle sometimes. There are issues of principle sometimes, and on those we will have to stick with principle and not make adjustments. So leave that judgment to us.
Devin, I'm going to ask you to hold on because we...
Yes, I had a question to you, Mr. Minister, that how will the compliance be done, especially when it comes to anti-profiteering clause? How will it be ensured that suddenly there's no hike in prices because of the taxes that will be revised, especially in the real estate sector? Will we see compliance officer there? Piyush Goyal has said, I will be there in person. If anybody is harassed, I will be there and I will ensure. But is it practical at the end of the day to ensure compliance?
That's a very good question, Devina. What we have tried to do and what has been done in every other country that has implemented GST is to put in place an anti-profiteering law and to create an anti-profiteering authority that will look into all of these matters where people have unjustly jerked up their prices because they think that they can take advantage of the GST implementation. So if you feel that there is a provider of goods and services that has unfairly jacked up their prices, claiming that taxes are now applicable, then please write to the National Anti-Profiteering Authority, whether it's Piyush Goyal ji or others, including myself. We are all here to serve you, to settle these matters and to ensure that nobody is unfairly taking advantage of anyone with respect to GST. I will come back again to a very, very fundamental principle of GST. The fundamental principle of the implementation is that there should be price stability. Yes, it's true that one good may go up a little bit and one good may go down a little bit. But in general, the notion is that prices should remain where they are today. So if anyone sees a big spike in prices or going up 10%, 20%, that's because something is wrong there and we should be told about it and we will take swift action.
So this anti-profiteering authority will act as some kind of a policeman, some kind of a bureaucratic authority is the worry that, no, that's what the worry that I think a lot of people have, that there will be someone there with a danda, looking over them, seeing whether your invoice has been properly put in, and many traders are saying, look, we are not even trained in this and we'll have the tax man at our door.
Rajeev, those are very pejorative terms. I would put it very differently. What I would say is that if you're over 75 lakhs in turnover, you have digitized, you are fairly and accurately representing your costs and invoicing your customers, whether they're consumers or another business, you have nothing to worry because you're doing everything by the book. If, on the other hand, you suddenly jack up your prices and claim that taxes are being levied when taxes were not being levied and you're not adjusting for input tax credit, which every CA, which every person who knows how to keep books will tell you how to adjust for those input tax credits, then you are being unfair to your customers and you should not be doing that. Then you should worry. But if you're being fair to your customers, if you're doing things by the book, you have nothing to worry about.
Okay, let me get in some questions from Delhi. We are at the INA market where my colleague Smita Oja is. Smita, go ahead. What's the question they have for the minister?
Rajdeep, in Delhi also, the big markets like Karol Bagh, Kirti Nagar, the textile market, the furniture market, the people are there, they're registering their protest against the GST, and I have with me Jitendra, who is a brand promoter. Jitendra, what question you have?
Well, the person who are using credit card, they have to pay 3% more in comparison.
Earlier you had to pay
15%, and now we have to pay 18%.
See, Rajdeep, this is a question by a common man. I mean, he's not related to any market, or he's running a showroom or something like that, but he is asking a question that why he will pay extra on the credit card purchase. That is 3% extra now.
Okay, Minister, answer that.
The question, of course, is that on financial services, previously service tax was 15%, now it's 18%. Why has it gone up? That also you have to understand that in the past you could not get input tax credit. Now you can get input tax credit, and therefore once you adjust the 18% for the tax credit you're likely to get, your prices will not go up. But I will let the Commissioner also give you more details on that. But generally, again, as I said, the principle is that prices should not go up.
Yes, sir.
See, the taxes which were fixed on the basis that if it was 15%, we are not having any slab at 15%. It has to go to a higher slab, 18%, because now certain credit benefits also flow to you.
Banks are going to make a killing on this. Banks are the ones who are benefiting.
Banks will not benefit because it is a tax. Tax will go into the government account. It is a tax which is going into this.
But as a customer, I'm losing out.
No, prices, that's the point I was making, Rajdeep, is that prices should not go up, because even though you're levying higher tax, you as the provider are also getting more tax credit. And therefore, the price that you're charging should not go up, because even though you are paying more in taxes, you're also saving money in terms of the input tax credit.
Yes, Rajeev.
Mr. Sinha, there are 3.5 crore SMEs across the country, registered SMEs. We are registering about 1 crore businesses in the GST network. What about the rest of them? What do they do? How do they make themselves, do viable business, legal business, and yet Rajeev,
I'm sure everybody wants to do legal business, pakka business, not kacha business. a large number of smaller businesses and traders are not even within the scope of GST. 20 lakhs or below, you just don't have to worry about GST.
But do they need to register or they don't need to register?
If you're 20 lakh or below, you don't have to register.
What if they are suppliers or buyers of from a GSTN account?
Okay, there I will ask the Commissioner to reply.
There are two types of registrations. One is if you are doing a intra-state trade, and if you are below 20 lakhs, you are not required to register at all. But if you are doing a interstate trade, you are required to register from the day one.
Okay.
There are two this thing. Secondly, if you are not registering, you don't file the return, you don't do any this thing, you are out of the GSTN.
Yeah.
Now, while purchasing, if suppose I am purchasing from a GSTN purchaser, I don't have to do anything. I just go and purchase like a normal consumer.
Okay.
I don't take the credit of that because I am not a registered person.
So I want to just re-emphasize this. The pan wala, the beauty parlor in a small village, the kirane ki dukaan around the corner, most of these people have turnover less than 20 lakhs. They are not doing any interstate supply. So the vast majority of people, the thela wala, you know, the mochi, none of these people are going to fall within the scope of GST, and they have nothing to worry about. On the other hand, if you're doing interstate supply, there are very few people with 20 lakhs of turnover who are doing interstate supply. But if they are, then they need to register because they have to account for the invoicing that they will have to do if they are shipping across states. If you're doing between 20 to 75 lakhs, your compliance is very simple because you're paying either 1%, 2% or 5%, but you do have to register as a GST participant.
Mr. Minister, you're saying don't worry, be happy. However, many reports that I have read suggest that across the world, when GST has been implemented, prices have, at least in the short run, gone up. Will that happen in India? Will there be an inflationary spiral? There are people watching this program who are worried in the next 6 months. Maybe if their son is in a private education institute, they may have to pay more. There will be certain services for which they will have to pay more, at least in the short run.
You are right that the empirical experience has been that there have been some price changes when GST has been implemented. We have worked very hard to ensure that price levels remain stable, that the fitment is particularly done in such a way that essential commodities that account for the vast majority of your day-to-day purchases actually have come down in prices. There are about 90 items that we've identified that belong to your day-to-day purchases where rates have actually come down. So there's been tremendous effort made to ensure that prices are stable or lower for most essential purchases. Now, that being said, there will be transition issues, there will be some disruptions, and we will work through those. As I said, it's a dynamic process. We will work through it and we will ensure that these settle down very quickly.
Welcome back to the GST classroom. Let's go straight to Bengaluru and get questions in from there. Take a look. Go ahead, Nolan.
Good evening, Rajeev. In fact, most of the traders and businessmen in Bengaluru are waiting with bated breath over here for the GST to roll out. However, they do have certain very interesting questions. I have with me two businessmen over here. Very quickly to them. Ajit, what's your question?
The finance minister had promised us in his first budget speech that he would lower the peak income tax rate from 30% to 20% once GST was launched. Will he stick to his promise is my simple question.
This is your question, and one more entrepreneur, budding entrepreneur, Ronak over here. What do you want to ask the minister?
See, the vision of our Prime Minister is basically to eliminate corruption at all levels. So here I want to know basically what are the mechanisms and tools basically the government has taken into consideration to curb, corruption. I mean, I have various processes in this. Basically, the time of registrations, once a vehicle gets caught midway, there are a lot of people who take money and stop things basically. So when are all these processes going to be ending? Is my main question.
All right, so these are the questions from businessmen over here, Rajdeep. Back to the studio.
Well, as you know, GST is a grand simplification of taxes is what I call it. GST, grand simplification of taxes. And with this grand simplification of taxes, we are also digitizing all of the invoicing and all of the bookkeeping that goes with it. So in the past, if somebody was evading taxes, if somebody was operating in the parallel economy by inflating their expenses or reducing their turnover and not showing their accurate accounts, That once we move to digitization, when we ensure that all invoices are digital, will be very difficult to do. And to the question that came from Bangalore, which is how do we therefore eliminate black money, eliminate corruption? My answer is by digitizing all of your records, by digitizing your expenses, by digitizing your revenues, you are going to accurately know how much business that individual is doing and what their accurate and fair tax should be. And so then people can't evade their taxes, they have to genuinely pay taxes. And it's a very legitimate point that salaried taxpayers have made over and over again, because they come within direct taxes and they have taxes deducted directly at source, so they have to pay their full and fair share of taxes. On the other hand, if you're operating a small business or you're self-employed, by inflating expenses and downplaying revenues, you have reduced your tax liability and been able to get away by not paying the taxes that you should have, and that's all black money, that's all parallel economy type stuff. That will not be possible any longer under GST. The grand simplification of taxes will enable us to compress the parallel economy and bring everybody within the tax net. That's extremely important. And to answer the second question that came from Bangalore, as we bring people from the informal side of the economy to the formal side of the economy, as we improve compliance and collect more in taxes, it gives us the tax revenues to see whether we can reduce the burden on salaried taxpayers, people who are paying direct income tax.
So my question has been on also from the salaried class point of view, because home buyers, what do they do if their projects are still under construction, service tax gone up there? The second question is, it's more directed to you, Mr. Minister, in your ministry itself, because there were certain concerns raised by airlines when GST was coming into play, whether they are ready to have compliance with the global standard as well. Does the air travel get impacted? Are the airlines on board now?
So on the real estate, I'll ask the Commissioner to answer that.
On the real estate side, we have already clarified that a builder or any person from whom you have already purchased and project is under construction, not delivered, he is getting lot of input credits also, and which were not available up till him. Moment you take into account those credits, there should be no addition to the prices, and that should not increase, that builder should not come up with an increase in price. So the project cost should remain the same because of the credit inflows which will now be available. That have been already clarified, and in case there is any problem, a complaint or this thing should go to the anti-profiteering body.
Not a paper policy.
I have one question. The midnight of June 30th, July 1, what exactly is it about? Is it more of a celebratory moment? Because the network is definitely not buzzing on July 1, 12:01 AM. And the second question is, a lot of people are worried, do they actually generate the invoices on the network or off it? Because that's how it happens in China, and there's a lot of misinformation going around on the
So Rajeev, let me
media.
address both questions, but I'll answer Devina's question first about aviation. In aviation, like in many other sectors, there are a set of issues associated with implementation and systems, which are transitional implementation issues. And then there are a set of issues that are related to the rates and the fact that prices may go up, prices may go down. So there are two different sets of issues. Now on the implementation issues, we've largely worked through all of those. There's one element that's still somewhat ambiguous right now around continuous journey. We are working that out. We hope to get a clarification on that very, very soon, before in fact July 1. And then once that's addressed, then we'll have resolved all of the implementation issues. Obviously there are tax rate issues, credit issues, where people would like to get more and lower rates so that they can of course pass those rates forward to our consumers as well. So those we are working on, and we will resolve them as we go along. So that's where we are as far as aviation is concerned. Rajeev, coming to your questions, first let me address the issue of connectivity. There is a fallacy, which is that all these invoices which have to be digital are going to be done in real time on the network. Yeah. That's not true. Yeah. You can create these digital invoices any which way you want. Obviously they should be computerized, but you can do it on a mobile app, you can do it on a computer, and you can generate these digital invoices once a month after September, not even in July and August, because we provided those 2 months for relief. From September onwards, once a month you have to upload your returns. Now you can do it yourself in a very convenient way, or you can have your accounting provider do it for you. So we think that that is a very simple and convenient thing, which is once a month you upload your returns, and everybody today, whether it's through 2G, 3G on their phones or through an internet connection, is able to upload the returns once a month.
I have only 15 seconds left on my program. A Facebook question from Ram Kumar. Will the government bring the electricity and petrol products under GST by 2020 and give us tax credit on the same?
We are working on it in the GST Council. Let's wait and see what happens. Okay, let's leave it there. We'll wait till the midnight hour. The tryst with tax, as we are calling it. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Srivastava, thank you very much. Rajeev, Devina, that's it on this special. Remember, we have an all-day conclave coming up tomorrow on Aaj Tak and India Today as part of the tryst with tax. This is being seen as a major tax reform of the government. We missed asking the minister, when is he selling off Air India? We leave that for another day and another time. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.